Hey, welcome back to my channel here. Today what we're going to do is we're going to be playing on the lathe, and I'm going to show you guys how I make these little barrels, these little oak barrels. Put my little logo on the bottom of it, the laser burner. It's not too bad of a process. You have to have at least an entry lathe with, a chuck. These are some of the tools, Jacob's chuck with a Forstner bit. This is 1 3/8 inches. And a couple measuring devices. I've got these two here, mainly is what I use. And what we're going to do is I'm going to turn a couple of them first because it's been 8 months since I've turned them. So I'm going to turn a couple of them, and then I'll flip on the camera and we'll turn this blank, starting from very bare bones. This is I don't know if you can see it. This is 3 pieces of wood glued together. Just bought them at Home Depot. They're oak. I glued them together and left it overnight. I use Titebond 3, so it's waterproof. You're going to want to use that for something that's going to be holding liquids. And then I just took it across my bandsaw and took the corners off. I wasn't being too picky about how I did it, so it's a little bit oblong, but just gotta make it round. I'm pretty sure people know how to make stuff round on here. So. Also, if you're wondering about the lathe, this is a Wen lathe. I bought it on Amazon. I can put a link for it in the description for you, or I can actually, I'll just put it in the description for you. It's a really good lathe. It's got a variable speed on it. It's a little bit pricier, but I'm really happy with it, and it's whisper quiet. It doesn't make a whole lot of noise. You can get a bed. This is 10 by 18, and you can get a bed to where it'll bring it out another 2 foot. So altogether, you can turn something that's over 4 feet long with it. It's got some power to it. It's a MIDI lathe, so it's not going to be all the horsepower in the world, but it gets me by. I've made bowls and all kinds of stuff with it, and I'm really happy with it so far. You'll see me using various tools as well. I got a Robert Sorry bowl gouge. I like to use that if I gotta take a lot of stuff off in a hurry, or if I'm trying to make a nice clean cut so I don't have to sand much. And I also rely heavily on my carbide cutters. I have just the regular circle, square, and triangle, or the diamond bit. They work really well. They get dull, you just replace them. I hardly ever use my traditional tools unless I'm feeling it. If I'm feeling it that day, then sure. So I'm going to try to keep this video as short as possible, just so that I'm not taking up a whole lot of your time and you can see how it's done. And if you have any questions, you can always comment down below, or you can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/AdaptiveDIYers. And you can message me on there, or you can send me an email on Gmail. I'd be happy to help anybody. So without further ado, let's get this going. Okay. So this is the blank I was telling you about. I practiced on 2 of them before we get started here, just to refresh. But just use the drill, knock a couple holes in it, in the bottom and top. Roughly center. You ain't gotta be perfect, because the round is actually a lot bigger than the actual barrel, so a little bit more waste, but it happens. So I'm just gonna pound this in and get a little bit of a groove. Alright, got that beat in a little bit. Now we'll just slide that in there. Put it end to end. Tighten the tailstock up. We're ready to turn. Just move it in. I already started and I totally forgot that I had to have a blank for this video, so I left it. So we'll get started on it. As you can see, it looks a little goofy. That's because I use this diamond tip to just chew up a lot of it, and then once I get it somewhat chewed up, then I come back through and start working it. The bowl gouge, now I got all the hard edges out of the way. Alright, we're basically round now. Got one little flat spot in it. We'll take care of that though. So that one's a little bit longer than the normal ones. This is a normal blank. You know, it's pretty short, but so I'm just gonna see if I can just turn that off, get it set to the length that I need and everything. But so go ahead and mark it with a pencil. You want to be fairly close when you make these marks, because this is what's going to determine how big the barrel is and whatnot. And if you're making batches of them, you want to be fairly close to the size you're going for. So we'll start cutting that off now. Just finish that off with the saw real quick here. All right. What's just left of that guy? Okay, so now that's how long we're going to want the whole barrel to be. So what we're going to do is put this back up here for a second. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to make it as round as my finished barrels. So as you can see, I got a long ways to go yet. But the length, actually the length's a little bit too long. See, I always double check that too. I keep one of these down here just in case. And just in case, it's going to end up saving me from making this a 1/4 inch too long. So go ahead and make our mark on that. Mark that right there. It's good, about time to sharpen that bugger. Alright, we're going to go ahead and measure. This is set to the width of that barrel. No ways to go yet. There we go. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch smaller, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm gonna take this off. Knock out my dry spur. Apologize if my head's in the way. That was in there. Take a chuck, throw it on. I like bringing my tailstock up and just giving it a little snug. That way it makes it true. Every time you do that, it usually makes it pretty true to where it's supposed to be. Okay. So now our mark's here, right? So what I'm going to do is we're going to end up having to remove this whole piece right here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Square everything up on the end here, because I'm going to be flipping this over. It's going to go back in the truck on the other side. Go ahead and make a little mark, because we're going to be putting a drill bit in this end, so I want that drill bit to run in there true. So I'm going to use this tip, just the tip of it, and just kind of hold it in there for a second. It makes a little dimple. And that dimple is going to be the guide for your bit. We're going to do, knock that guy out. I'm going to put in this guy. This is a Jacobs chuck, like I said, with that 3/8 or 1 3/8 Forstner bit. And what we're going to do now, while it's in this, is I'm going to work on the bottom first, believe it or not. I like to put a little notch in it. That way it gives this little, you know, see that there? And that's so that if the wood does come out around, which it probably won't, but if it ever does, it'll still sit nice and flat. No matter what, it won't rock. So there's no high spot there. And that just gives me a place to put my logo. And I also fill it with epoxy when I'm done, because otherwise, if you actually drink through this, like I drank Jameson through it, it's pretty good. If you drink through it, it will come out. It'll seep through because oak is such an open porous, so you don't want that. So I always fill that up with epoxy in the bottom, just in the bottom, because you want this food safe. You know? So we'll go ahead and put that little ridge on, and we'll flip it around, throw the other end into the truck. Flip it around. Turn all the way low, make sure it's running true. Got a teensy little hop, not too bad though. Not too bad at all. So, we're gonna knock the hole on the other side now. Like I said, I did 2 of these earlier, so the bit's starting to get a little dull. I usually have to sharpen it after every 2. But I just put a little bit of my homemade wax in there. This is beeswax melted down with mineral spirits. 2 parts wax, 1 part mineral spirit, so it's thick like that as a paste. I like that for this kind of stuff. Otherwise, I mix it a little thinner for my butcher blocks and stuff. Nice little dip again. See, it just melts that stuff instantly. You don't want to touch that, it's hot. We're there. Accident. Set him up there to cool down. And what I'm going to do now is blow everything off and clean it up, because we're going to torch the inside of this now. Now that my loud compressor is off, we'll go ahead and turn this on all the way on the lowest speed possible. Got a torch and a bottle of water. And I got a fire extinguisher on the other wall. You always have to have a fire extinguisher in your shop. Just because of this reason. I took most of the fuel out as possible, you know, just cleaned it up a little bit on the floor in case something falls down, but we're dealing with fire here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to light it, and I'm going to work on the inside first, and you'll start to see the flames start to shoot out when it starts getting really charred. And then I'm just going to work my way out. There we go, see the flames? We'll work our way out. Give her 2 squirts. Then you turn the speed up. Let it air cool. For a minute. Alright, and I just take some 220. I leave the speed right where it's at, and I take 220. I just hit the inside and the ends, because this is the only time you get to work on this part. You'll see why. But I'm going to sand it a little bit, and then I'll throw a little bit of wax on there. Just sanding that lip off so it's not sharp. You want to feel good when you put it up to your mouth, you know? Just a wee little bit of sanding. Take some of this wax, same stuff that I was cooling the bit off with. Got a little bit of wood in there, that's alright though. And a little bit of wax on there. And just hold it there and you'll feel it get warm. When it gets warm, that means it's soaking into the wood. That means it's doing what it needs to do. I don't suggest doing this with your bare finger. If you're using claws like this, you want to keep it away from that chuck, because if that thing gets wrapped up in that chuck, you're going to have a really bad day. So you got to be careful of it. Now you notice I cut this rag up. You want to use small pieces. That way it can just suck it up, you know, and you can let go of it. God forbid it gets wrapped in your finger though. That should be good enough. Okay. Now we'll turn this down. Take it off the chuck, flip it back around. We're going to use a jam chuck. That's what it's called. This guy here. I'm going to line the marks up right with the chuck. Like that. Snug it up. Turn it all the way down, make sure it runs true. Yep, it's run true. Our live center. Put this right in there. You can see the marks from the other ones. And this is where this is home. It stays here for the rest of the process. And when you crank it down, you don't want to give it a really good crank. You'll see it slip once in a while and you'll see me come in and retighten it again, but you don't want to crank it too much because you're going to split your wood then if you do that. So you don't want to have too much pressure on it. And the first thing I'm going to do is work on this corner. Get in there and I'm going to clean it up a little bit, round it over, just a hair. Oh, wait a minute, you know what, we got to go down to the size. I'm skipping steps, sorry. So we'll contour this real quick here. Get it down to the size that I need. This is for my ends. We're basically there. Okay. So we're there. So what we're going to do now is sand. And I'm going to put my lines in for the burn rings. We're going to start off with 120, and then we're going to hit it with 220, and we're going to wax and polish it. See that? Just a hair. I actually speed it up a little bit too. Alright, we'll turn her off. Go back and forth, see my marks? Tooling marks and such. This 120, if you go back and forth with the grain, it should take most of the tool marks. They can disappear because you're lining up the scratches with the grain of the wood. And if there's a little bit, it's okay, you know. A lot of people just make these for gifts for people, or gag gifts, or party favors. Party favors are really nice. I've done a few of them for people. Okay, and on to 220. Same deal. Sand it this way. Look at that. Okay, now we're going to take my detailed diamond bit. I'm going to make little marks where I want the grooves to be. You can use the end of a skew as well. It works pretty good. Just go in there, and all I'm going to do is touch it. You'll see. I make these though because you see that hop on that side. If you just try to use the line burner, you'd end up with a mark where there's no burn because it's skipping right over it. This eliminates that problem. Hear it skipping? That's why I do that. That's pretty good right there. Keep her running. It's the burnisher. It's made out of a guitar string and 2 pieces of wood. You want to keep this away from the chuck as well as much as possible. I know you're going to have to get in there pretty tight, So you just be very careful while you're doing this, because you do not want to get that thing sucked up in that chuck. You're going to be missing fingers and it's not going to be pretty. So speed her up. Lay it across there. I try to bend it down like that so you get as much surface contact as possible. That way it heats up faster. I might actually need to speed it up just a little more. Oh no, there she goes. I like a good heavy burn. See how it stopped? That's usually when it's time. There we go. Oh, see? Doesn't want to stay in where it needs to be. Because that hot. See, I'm a little more careful around that chuck. Try to keep downward pressure. I'm not pushing hard. You don't need to push hard. You just kind of keep tension on it. Alright, there's our lines. Now come back in with 500 just to kind of smooth everything up a little bit. Use a dry rag, shop rag, to get all that crap off of there. So now we're going to be finishing it. Rip a little piece of that off. Get some of my homemade shellac. I bought shellac flake from Amazon. I can leave the link in the description for you on what I use for the shellac. But I also get denatured alcohol and I mix them together. And I'll show you that process. It's right up here. I'll show you a link right here for that from the guy from Turn a Bowl. He's very good. And this is who taught me. But I love this stuff. This is quite thin. It's not as heavy bodied as he mixes them. But I use it for all kinds of stuff, so I mix it a little thinner. I just set it in there and let it spin for a minute. Stays wet on the rag for a while. So I just let that first one dry. It dries very quick because of the rubbing alcohol. You don't want any flamer on this, by the way. You will catch fire. See that? Now it's basically dry, so I come back through and I put a little more on. Let that dry for a second. While it's spinning, I'll get my wax ready. That same wax I've been using, it's food safe. All this product is food safe, by the way. Put a nice little lather of wax on there. Speed it up now. I go up to about 900. Now just kind of apply it, move it around a little bit. See, I'm careful around that chuck with this thing. You can see it starting to go on there though. Alright, and then what I do is I get it doubled up. You don't want to bare one layer because you'll burn your finger. It gets hot. But you just want to hold it in one spot. A little bit of pressure. And once you start to feel it get a little slippery, you can start moving across. Now I like pushing my fingers into them cracks just a little bit. And you'll see them. Once you get that wax set in, you can actually see it set. And them lines are there forever after that. See, I'm not moving across it very fast. I'm feeling for the heat. That heat's what makes everything seal up nicely. That's that. Put a little bit of epoxy in the bottom of it. Give yourself a nice little shot glass. Great for gifts, or just make one for yourself. I have one. I love it. But yeah, that's basically what you do. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to see further videos and you're not subscribed, feel free to subscribe. But it's been a blast, and hopefully you guys enjoy this. And Let me know if you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask down in the comments. Thanks everyone, we'll see you next time.